Good evening and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show and this Town Talk special. I'm your host, Stephen Downs. As ever, with me is my right-hand man, my on-screen partner. It's Mr. Kaine Hall. How are you doing, Kaine?
Yeah, evening, Steve. Good evening, my friend. Yeah, as well, of course, mate, a couple of late nights recently, obviously, at the game last night too, commentating on that one. So, yeah, ready for this podcast and then hopefully a nice early-ish night for once.
All right. Well, we'll get you tucked up in bed soon, I'm sure, and our viewers will, enjoy the show as we go. So make sure you like, subscribe, and share the video as ever. All your support is massively appreciated. Thanks very much for all the fans getting involved in the other shows as well. And please do get your comments in tonight. We have got an interesting debate. We did a question on Monday, which some of you may have seen. So I've kind of gone with a similar style tonight. I didn't tell Kaine this was going to be happening, but it's a bit of a surprise for him. But we are asking the question. Obviously, Johnny Ogg made his 400th Huddersfield Town appearance. Magnificent effort to make that for one club within 12 years. Does he get into Town's all-time midfield? And who else gets in there? That's what we're asking tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want to get involved in that, we'll be bringing the comments out throughout the show and asking the question periodically throughout. But on tonight's show, we're going to talk about the fantastic, amazing win against Stevenage and the loss, unfortunately, to the Welsh Dragons yesterday against Wrexham. The Hollywood Stars came and didn't exactly bowl Town over, but they went away with all 3 points in a disputed goal. Anyway, we'll get on to that. We'll also talk about Michael Duff's 3-5-2 system and why Kaine is wrong and Duff is right. And then we'll also talk about why Dion Charles just simply cannot score. But Kaine, we'll start with the game against Stevenage. Obviously, we travelled down there looking for a win after two disastrous performances, really, against Peterborough and Wigan, which we discussed on the last podcast. But what were your thoughts, with the win over Stevenage?
Well, he needed it, really. Also, just want to point out, loving Ben HTFC 17's comments already. I think them comments were on Ben before we'd even said hello to each other. So appreciate
Ben loves the show.
He loves the show. The victory over Stevenage was needed. And for me was obviously quite an obvious victory that had to come for Town, but they made hard work of it. Really made hard work of it. And, look, as Ben said, there's a lot of injuries going on at the moment for Town. And personally, I don't see that as much of an excuse. A lot of these players are professional footballers, should be at the top of the game whenever they play. Longvic making that mistake, allowing Stevenage to get back into the game, and they had other chances, did Stevenage. They're a side who are going to be, they're not exactly setting the league alight, are they? They're
not quite.
Bottom, they've been in around that bottom area of the league for the last couple of seasons, and regardless, when you've got a team like Huddersfield, who's arguably from what reports say, the second highest wage budget in the league, you have to be going away to teams like Stevenage and getting 3 points. So it was an expected win in terms of stature of clubs and what should be happening. Anything less than that would have been a huge disappointment. Longvic made the mistake, in my opinion, for the goal that Town conceded. Made up for it with the header that he scored, but the defending from Stevenage on that corner was absolutely abysmal.
Yeah.
Stevenage still had their opportunities, still had the chances. And it was very similar to what I say most weeks, Steve, on how to beat Huddersfield Town. Get down the channels, because it just stretches Huddersfield Town up so much. Town, personally, I thought they were quite lucky with Town. Nichols made a good save here and there, but then Stevenage hit the bar in the last minute. It could have easily gone the wrong way. And, last time we were on there, on the podcast, I said that he's got to win his 3 games to stay in his job.
He won 1.
He's won 1 and had an okay performance last night.
Yeah, well, we'll get on to last night. I mean, you did say that we had to win the 3 games for him to keep his job. He won 1 out of the 2. I think all 3 performances weren't fantastic, but we've not performed all season, as we well know. I mean, realistically, if he'd have lost the Stevenage game, I think he'd have been on very thin ice, wouldn't he?
The thinnest of thin ice. Yeah, 100%, mate. You get that. Yeah, it's just been bad on it. It's just been bad, and we know that. We spoke about it quite a fair bit, but he got a victory that he needed. Again, it wasn't the performance, though, was it? It wasn't really the performance.
No.
I think we can speak more about performance when we talk about the game last night, in terms of what was different to what we've seen beforehand. And personally, I was saying that them 3 games, I want to see Michael Duff win them all to keep his job. And okay, he's done half of that. And I think it can be given a little bit of slack because of the injuries that he's got and that he's dealing with. Again, personally, I do think the formation that Town have been played and how stretched they've been at times is a factor in them injuries. But he's at the moment, Longvic comes off last night. Currently,
Yeah.
that was out of precaution at half time. Town have no fit centre halves, depending what's up with him.
Well,
there's a lot of changes in play in positions at the back there. And Michael said last night, there's not really been much fluidity within the game and the lineups that he's been picking. Agreed, but also, what kind of information is going out to these players beforehand? The players should know what they're doing, regardless of if they've played with someone before or not. Does that mean tactics need to be made a little bit simpler for them, or do they need to be told a little bit more? I think there's a lot of factors in it that need to be discussed in terms of what makes it right for the fluidity of the game, the relationships of it, of playing in certain formations, the injuries that Town have had, how they've managed to pick up performance. Not performance, results, despite they had so many injuries. Why the injuries? But there's a lot of questions to be asked. But the first and foremost is, where are the results coming from? That is the biggest question. And at the weekend, he got one, but he didn't last night.
No, we'll talk about the back line more when we come to touch on the Wrexham game, because I think that is quite an important talking point. But he did change the midfield 2 on Saturday against Stevenage. It wasn't really a 3, really, although Chue did kind of float in that number 10 position a bit like he did last night, but he kind of I see him as like he floats everywhere. Kind of sometimes he's on the left, sometimes he's in the centre, sometimes he's even running beyond Marshall. To be honest, he did that at times last night, particularly against Wrexham. But Evans and Hodge were in there. I wasn't convinced when I saw the lineup of them 2, particularly in that middle 2 position. But Evans did all right, and Hodge was okay. I mean, without being spectacular, I don't think we'll ever see a spectacular performance from him. But I thought Evans did all right on Saturday. I thought he was less effective yesterday.
Okay, interesting comments, because I think Hodge technically is the best player on loan at Town this season, technically. Ability-wise. I see Hodge going and playing in the Premier League. I generally do. I think he's got that ability. He's just got to get rid of them injury issues. If he does, he's got a good chance being there. Callum Marshall very close to him, but technical wise, ability wise, Hodge is the better player for me. Marshall just offers you so much, drive and give and go forward.
Effort,
yeah, so much effort in there. In terms of Anthony Evans, he's had this toe injury, which is just so strange. So strange that I don't know if there's is there a bit of conspiracy in there that he's had a bit of a falling out with Michael Duff and he's now been called upon because everyone else is injured, or is it the case that it is a toe injury that is very, very uncommon? I don't know. I hope it's just a toe injury that's very uncommon. And I think we're seeing a player in Anthony Evans. He's got some nice touches, good passing ability. I just think if he's carrying that little bit of a knock, he's left very open in midfield with a young player next to him who's trying to learn his trade and again, his minutes need managing, coming back from injury, a lot of pressure on there. There's a lot to do for them too. And then you've got Chilwell, who last night I thought looked leggy after 15, 20 minutes. I generally thought I didn't think he was going to finish that first half. He didn't look like he wanted to battle hard defensively. He only wanted to know when it was going forward. And yeah, he just looked tired. So when you've got that as well, who's a player who's supposed to be playing in the hole, essentially the number 10 role, so they are, like you say, Steve, here, there, and everywhere, making runs all over the field. Defensively, you've still got to be solid in that position. You've got to get yourself back there. And I just felt that the midfield gets a little bit stretched because of that. And again, this is a bit of a twist on the way Michael Duff is playing his formation at the moment. It's not its natural shape that he's been playing before January, before Christmas.
Yeah,
it's just a little bit different on it because of what you've got in Chilwell. I thought performance was okay on Saturday. Last night, I thought Evans had a pretty good game, to be honest with you. Went a little bit quiet towards the end, but his passing went off a little bit. But defensively, put himself about. He worked hard, tracked back, good little interceptions here and there. I was quite impressed with his performance, and I do like Joe Hodge, but I do feel as if he's under quite a lot of pressure. I feel like he's come here with a bit of a good arrogance about him, going, I'm a good player, but I feel like it's on him too much now, Steve, because he's like, I am a good player, and the fans know, they all can see it. Now I've got to perform, but I also can't make a mistake because there's so much at stake for Town right now. So we find him being a little bit more passive.
I don't think either of them had a bad game, and I don't think either of them had a bad game on Saturday, particularly. I just think Evans was maybe more effective in driving forward on Saturday, but again, the opposition maybe possibly let him do that. Where yesterday, he maybe had to do more of the defensive work, which was fine. Wrexham, obviously, we can get onto them now. Wrexham came with a game plan yesterday. It's Phil Parkinson's sort of side. They play Phil Parkinson football. If we're absolutely honest, it's, get down in the dirt kind of and be physical, high balls up to the forwards. And I thought for the main part, Kaine, we did well. I was slightly surprised when Lomvik went off because I thought he had a very good first half, if I'm honest. What I liked, and I did say this to my dad when we were watching the game, was I like the fizzing of the balls into the midfield. He wasn't scared to do that. Particularly into Joe Hodge, who, as you say, has the ability to get hold of them balls and then look for passes elsewhere. And he stepped forward into midfield quite often, a bit like you would see a higher player do that has that technical ability. So I thought Lomvik had a decent first half. I know we've talked on the podcast before where he's not particularly your sort of, you don't see him as a great sort of player, but I thought yesterday, his first half was good, got taken off at half time because of precaution. And then that does obviously leave us with a big problem with the back line because Spencer had to go in as the central defender and Turton and Ruffles, who I also thought played very well. Ruffles, I thought that was one of the best games I've seen Josh Ruffles at. He had to go on the right. So there was a big switch around when Lomvik went off.
Yeah, so Simon Way went off with precaution for his hamstring. He was feeling a little bit of cramp as well. Obviously, he's not played a lot of football. Yeah, Lomvik had an okay game, and he was finding some nice balls into Chilwell, who was in midfield, and into Hodge. But why is it having to take to play Wrexham at home in a big game for him to have a good performance? That.
Yeah, but I think I know what
this
you're saying.
Is one of my reasons, Steve, why I don't fancy him as a Championship player or a Premier League player, because it's so inconsistent. You have to be at that level every single game that you play. Now, don't get me wrong. He had a good game until he came off. It was a shame to see him off because one is your only fit centre half, and two, he was performing well. I also thought Brodie Spencer was unbelievable yesterday.
Yeah,
Smith,
Spencer's tackle was in the second half absolutely stunning. That tackle that he made.
he had Smith in his back pocket for the majority of the game. Smith
Yeah.
won one header all game, and that was when Wrexham scored. That's the only header he won all game. I thought Ollie Turton looked way out of his depth last night. I thought.
No, I disagree. I disagree.
Yeah,
I don't think.
You're allowed to disagree.
Oh, cheers, mate.
You're welcome. But I just thought it was way out. I thought it was so out of his depth. His touches, his positioning here and there wasn't great. His passing in was poor. Look, don't get me wrong. He played 3 positions last night. For each one, I don't think he performed at all. Ruffles was good, but Spencer was unbelievable in that back line. But again, you're leaving so much space in midfield. So let me just come back on to Hodge and Evans. You find out a lot of the time they're picking up the ball on the wings because they're trying to find space. But then you're all congested. And the way Town move the ball from left to right, the width of the field, they do it quite slow. And it allows your opposition to get themselves set back again. And it can just have a bit of a hindrance because there were so many times where, even in that first half, Turton was free on the right-hand side, but we're taking 3 or 4 passes to get to him and 2 or 3 touches on the ball as well. So by the time it's got to Turton, when he had free and had some space, all the opposition have come across and closed him down. So then they're having to go again. It has to just be a little bit quicker. But Ruskin did okay. I'm glad they brought him off because they really need to look after him. He's a quality player. I thought defensively again worked hard.
I agree.
Again,
yeah.
Even when he had the ball on the left-hand side, because of where Town this formation is, once you get into that middle third, the final third, your options are very, very slim. And Town just weren't even trying to put that ball in the box. And again, this might go in nicely for you, Steve, because the formation that Town are playing in doesn't allow that many options further up the field.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you've segued me into it nicely there. You're a true professional. Let's just go back to the overriding question of tonight. Johnny Hogg played 400 league career appearances for Huddersfield Town Football Club. Does he get in Town's all-time best midfield? And if so, who goes alongside him? Regular contributor to the show, Mark Harrison, has said Moy, which is fair enough. I mean, yeah. He's also said, okay, other midfielders would be Nicholson, Gore, and Marsden for 3. Actually, the 2099 sort of 2000 era does get forgotten about slightly, I think. So yeah, there were some good players back then, including Armstrong as well. He was a decent player. And he's also said going forward, he said injuries, consequences of the main 5 factors: recruitment players, injury history; 2, lack of squad rotation; 3, medical performances; team ability; 4, team setup; 5, modern game intensity. And we'll just show Ben's comments from right before we came back on air. He says the reason why we lost was the blame the ref and the lino, and then also the injuries. Cheers, Ben. Thank you very much for getting in contact. And yeah, keep your comments coming in, guys, particularly for that Johnny Hogg question. Mark brings up some interesting points. Let's go on to talk about the formation because that was one of the agenda points for tonight. Michael Duff, after the game, in both Stevenage and yesterday, said that we look better in the 3-5-2 system. I know it's your hatred of it, and I just wondered whether you disagree with him completely, because I'm expecting you to say that you think so.
I mean, they performed a little bit better last night, but they're not better off in that formation. Absolutely not. I mean, last night there were one chance really for me, one chance for Town, and that was Dion Charles, and we're going to come on to that. That was one chance. Once you get into this final third with this formation, right, you're looking for an option to go forward, but you can't because he's asking his 2 forwards to be quite narrow and playing one-on-one. So he wants one to drop in and one go behind. Also, what you're finding is now you've got Chua playing in this little 10 role. He's either not there or he's miles away. or he's closing up your space. He wants it short. He just wants it to feet. Just wants it short. Wants it to feet all the time. So the only other options, you don't have a winger to give it to further down the line because your fullback's having to come up. But because it's your fullback who's getting out wide, still quite deep because he's a fullback. So he don't want to commit himself down into the edge of the area because he needs to get sprinting back. And if you cross it too early, you've got no one in there because you're only aiming for two. And again, Chua, he don't want to be in the area heading the ball. I've never seen him try and win a ball in air. He wants it to feet. Also, because you've got two midfielders who are covering every single blade of grass, do they want to commit further forward? Probably not, because they know if Town don't win the ball in the area, they're going to have to sprint themselves back. Also, you've got three centre-halves there just sitting back, and then your other wing-back on the other side. It is very defensive. Okay, I generally think sometimes Town look great when they're putting that ball in the box straight away. But they're doing it so deep and so late in the game. Sorry, not late in the game. Late in the phase, because they've passed the ball from left to right to right to left to left to right to right to left. But they've not done it quickly. They've done it slow. So you're allowing so many players to get back behind the ball for your opposition, and then you're not getting the players to commit either. So what I was saying there, when you've got you've got your two wing backs and your three centre halves. So that's 5 players defensively. Okay, one of the wing backs might go up to try and put the ball in the area, but he's only going midway in the opposition half. That means you've got 4 other players there sitting in defence in that back line. Okay, it's not going to be in a straight back line, but they'll be curved round to the far side. Your other wing back on the far side is probably going to be on the same kind of position as the wing back that's crossing in. So them two are only halfway in the opposition half. Your 3 centre halves are on the back line. So already that's 5 players that are in the attack. Your 2 midfielders, sitting midfielders, your 2 number 8s, whichever one you want to call them, whichever way you ask them to do. Again, they're going to be in between your wing backs. Okay, so that's 7 players now. Keep count with me, Steve, because I might get my maths mixed up. That's 7 players kind of just sitting and hoping that someone else will put the ball in the back of the net for them, waiting to see if there's going to be an attack. 8th player, your number 10, he's coming short because he don't want to head ball. He wants it at his feet. He's a good foot. He's good with the ball at his feet, so he's not getting in the box. Then that leaves you with 2 strikers. 2 players to aim for. One of them is probably going to come short, then go to the front post. The other one's going to lurk at the back post. So that you're not leaving yourself many options. And you can do that even if it's not a cross. That is literally how it is going throughout all phases of the game, whether it's a cross, whether it's a short pass in. And then on top of that, as crossing is pretty poor.
Yeah, well, the one thing that I did notice last night was when Ruben did get to the edge of the area, he was always left one-on-one with whoever was Wrexham's fullback at that time. Longman or I think the lad that came on for him. And what I did notice was that he always, not always, but he quite often turned down the cross because the 2 people that were in the box were either Karoma to start with and Marshall, or Charles and Marshall. And I don't think either of them are particularly fantastic in the air. You know, there was one cross where Marshall got it and he headed it, you know, sort of, it wasn't that close, to be honest, in the first half. And like you said, Chue was nowhere near the ability for Ruben to pass it to him. So I think that was quite frustrating, although Ruben did get up and down the pitch well. I thought when Sorensen came on, I think you can just see overconfidence. He's just not there with the lad coming back from injury. We saw him pre-season, he was whipping balls in, he was happy to get up and down the line. I just think the whole injury thing and lack of form has just absolutely tabletop the confidence. And we're going to talk about Dion Charles in a moment, but I do think you can see that in Sorensen as well. He doesn't want to take his man on, and he doesn't want to put those crosses in.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things on that because, you know, Sorensen, was whipping balls in, but it's anytime that ball just comes back and comes back and comes back, and you know you're having to sprint back and sprint and sprint and sprint, which is where the injuries come from Sorensen. He's going to be subconsciously going, do I want to do this right now, knowing that we're
Yeah.
probably not going to win it?
Mm.
Because, okay, I do believe getting the ball in the box is from a crosses like that first time a great way to score goals. Anything can happen, but if you're just trying to do it at the right time, you're not going to really help anybody. You talk about Marshall winning a header in the area from a cross. He did, and he did superbly to get his head on it. But where did he win it? He did it in between the point of the 18-yard box and the point of the 6-yard box.
Yeah, he did.
It
Yeah.
is not.
Yeah.
It's not in the right area. It's in a
No.
terrible area for a header to get away. You're
Yeah, it
never
is.
going to score from there. Obviously,
No.
he's done well to get his head on it, but really, is that the right
Well, that was
area?
my point.
No.
That was my point, and I do agree with you on the point of we get to areas and then we either don't have the quality to execute the areas that we're in, or we don't do it quick enough. I thought we did have a little bit more tempo than what we have in the last 5 weeks in the first half, but then again that dropped off, and then it came back for maybe 2 minutes and then dropped off again. I just think there's a lot of things that are to do with, and I don't want to just blame the injuries because I agree with you that it don't matter who's on the football pitch. There should be a plan and able to execute that plan. But I do agree with Duff that it is hard then to get into a rhythm when you can't pick your team and execute the plan that you probably want to do all season. What really infuriates me is when we bring Joe Taylor on, we're still pumping balls into the box like he's some sort of 6'2" god. He's never going to win a header against a 6'3" centre back, is he? I mean, they were massive yesterday. Were Wrexham.
Yeah, but they've done that for the last couple of weeks, putting that ball into the air towards Karoma and Marshall. I think Karoma's won one header in his life.
That's what I mean, though. We haven't got the forwards to do it.
Yeah, but they're doing it, and so again, yeah, there's a lot of injuries, and it does not matter. You can tell any kind of player, any professional footballer, how to play. You can analyze it. You can tell them what to do. You can give them a game plan. Just because they're a player who's not necessarily in your plans to be in the starting 11 week in, week out, doesn't mean they can't do a job. So it's no excuse. It is absolutely no excuse that ball goes up in the air towards Marshall and Karoma at the beginning of the game, or it has done over the last couple of weeks. When you either drop it into them just before the man, or you drop it over them so they can run onto it. But at the moment, it's right on them. Marshall, to be fair, lad's small and he'll work hard for you. He gets up and he tries. He don't win them all, but he'll win 30% of the headers, and it's a great effort. Karoma ain't going to do that's not his game. You know, I'm not having a go at him saying, "Oh, he was only won one header in his life." I'm not saying that to be me. I'm just saying that that's not his game. He doesn't want to do that. You've got to play to his strengths, and strengths is not up there to win the ball. Now, back end of the game, you throw the kitchen sink at it, don't you? You try and get something out of it. You try and get them to make a mistake. But why is it taking until be losing with 5-10 minutes to go to put a ball in the box? And again, I'll go back to the formation or putting bodies up there. Sorensen, he's a bit nervous about putting the ball in there because you've got two people to aim for. Get in the box. One of the midfielders, get in the box. Or you set yourself up a little bit differently. Have one less defender, and you've got an extra midfielder who can go into the box for you there. So you're not just sending one of the two, you're sending 2 or 3 there. Or you full back on the far side, get them in at the back post and just cover around a little bit more. I do think that, look, the tempo was a little bit better last night. The performance was a little bit better. But all in all, we're still seeing the same issues for Huddersfield Town. They cannot do anything in that final third at the moment because the options are so slim.
Let's talk about Dion Charles. Obviously, he had a fantastic chance in one of the best moves of the game by either side, I thought. It was a really slick move from Town, got Charles through one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and absolutely, but if you carbon copy the 2015 shot of 10 years ago, you are going back to Ishmael Miller. I saw Ishmael Miller hit a shot and it went closer to the corner flag than the goal. Charles wasn't quite that bad, but it was a shocking miss. I mean, the lad's just got no confidence, has he? But to me, and I know strikers work on confidence, don't get me wrong, but he hit it all wrong. I mean, the ability that the lad's got, you can tell that he's an half-decent footballer. He scored goals in this division, but to not even hit the target, Kaine, I mean, it's pretty poor, isn't it?
I can't believe you brought up Ishmael Miller.
Well, he goes in one of my worst town sides of all time, if I'm honest. Charles will never be that bad, but
I hope Dion's not watching. It was awful, wasn't it? Poor lad. I feel for him because he is just lacking every kind of confidence that he needs at the moment. He needs smoke blowing up his bum, and it's just not happening because he's not doing the right things either. He's not making the right runs. I thought the press of the front two yesterday wasn't great, especially when Charles came on. They just kind of Marshall and Charles didn't do. They had different ideas to what the manager had, and it all just went a little bit poor. And that ball went through to him, and that first touch,
awful.
He's got to go. He's got to go back towards goal, try and get himself a little bit more centrally, so he's got both sides of the goal to aim for and get in front of the defender. Instead, he's allowed it to get away from him, and he's panicked.
And then he's gone for power, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's not thinking about I can score. He's thinking, I don't really want this right now. I can't do this. I'm panicking. What shall I do? I'm just going to hit it. I'm just going to hit bang, bang, and then he just
20 meters over.
Yeah, so
it's a great conversion for rugby league. Yeah. Fantastic conversion, but
so uncomposed, so low on confidence, and you really feel for the lad. It's going to be the case where it's going to be start to, the strikers coming into the club and not performing. There's how many now?
But the one thing I would say is that you can tell that he tries, though. Like you've said, I don't think it's an effort thing. I think town fans genuinely, they're frustrated because they know he can be a good player. Some fans, all right, take it overboard, but I think the genuine fans actually feel a bit sorry for him because he's coming to a new club. He's having to learn a brand new system, under a new manager, and I think you can tell that he was upset when he missed the shot. Like the Sky cameras beamed on him, and you could tell he were upset, and that's what really sort of frustrates you, but then makes you feel sorry for the lad because you can tell that he was, and that just goes through his mind, then, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course, he's trying. I don't, I think there's the majority of the town players out there like are trying, but he's brought into a new club. He's got to move because his performances beforehand, but he's been put into a formation which I don't think suits many attackers, and it always makes it even harder. And especially when you're not really creating too much since January when he's come in, it is hard for him. But you've got to take these moments, and situations like that separate the men and the boys kind of thing. He does need an arm round him, and I think town fans do appreciate that he's working hard. But sometimes when he's working hard, he's doing it in the wrong way. He's not making the right runs. He's losing the ball, or he's trying to fight a battle what he doesn't really need to fight, and he just needs to get grounded a little bit more. And just is it that he's not listening to instructions that need to be given for the press, or is it the instructions aren't being given correctly to him as well? Because when he did come on, the front two didn't press properly, even with and Chua as well, just behind. They didn't press properly, and it got so easy for Wrexham.
Yeah,
to come out at town, and again, where's this information coming? Is that the coaching staff that aren't giving it to him correctly? Is that Dion himself who doesn't understand it? The more questions that you need to ask, but the lad is dying for a goal. He needs one. He really does, because he's going to struggle. He's going to really struggle mentally if he don't get one over in the next couple of games. In fact, we've seen it now. He started these games when he came in. It was like, oh, got Dion Charles. We might. Karoma, who was injured already last night, started over him.
Yeah, and bless Taylor when he came on. Like he made I can't remember who played it. Might have been Spencer, and he just blasted this ball forward. And Joe Taylor did make a run towards the corner. He must have ran 40, 50 yards. I just thought, please don't injure your hamstring. You're like, it's a lost ball. It's a lost ball, Joe. Just don't go for it.
Yeah, don't bother going for
it. But he did, and that does prove that at least he's coming and all right. You can tell he cares with the interviews that he's done as well. He wants to. Get out there. And I think that's probably because he's a young lad as well. And he probably didn't know his own body at that time when he did get injured. But yesterday I was just like, don't do it, Joe. Like, we need you at the moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's the kind of worrying thing. I had a conversation with a couple of people in the media room afterwards about that kind of stuff. And it's like, is there any point in risking him? You aren't creating anything. He's just going to chase lost balls, and he might get you a goal if it drops nicely for him. We've got to put that ball in the right area, and they aren't doing it.
Yeah,
they're just not doing it at all. And there's so many players out there losing confidence because of everything that's going on. And I just want to also say that the atmosphere yesterday was a lot better because the performance was better. The players got a round of applause. The boos last night were for the referee because
100%.
Yeah. But that's the difference. The other week, yeah, exactly as Ben says, blame the ref. The other week, the players, I don't think the players got booed as much. Michael Duff got booed, and he deserved it because it has been terrible. Last night, the performance was better, and they all got a round of applause. Yeah. Again, does that not speak volumes to the team, to the board, that they just want to see a team perform and work hard, and that's what they did last night. And they're gonna get the people behind them. Playing poorly and having a poor performance is only going to get you booed, and that's when you deserve it because it's been horrendous. But again, I think Michael's safe because of the amount of injuries that he's had, and it is tough for him. Look, it is tough, but I don't. You can use the injuries to a certain amount as an excuse, okay? But he's still in the playoffs, right? He's still picked up results with injuries. But for me, that's still no excuse why performances have been bad. And Steve, they're all professional. They can do a job.
Yeah. You were sat 10 feet away, if that, from our owner last night. He came overweight from Sacramento, Mr. Nagel. He is in England. Don't know how long he's in England for. Don't know particularly what his plans are while being here. I'm sure it's probably to do with stuff behind the scenes, probably on the stadium, etc. But he always said that he was coming over for the Wrexham game, did an interview with Radio Leeds. As ever, Paul Ogden, a friend of mine, asked the questions and said, look, Mr. Nagel, is sixth, we've gone down to sixth now, but before the game we were fifth. Is fifth in the league acceptable to you? What is the future for this season? And Kevin said promotion has to be the aim, and anything but that is failure. So he's sticking to that line, which he said at the start of the season. But we have gone down to sixth now, and obviously Terrier 930 says, I think it's time to draw a line under this season now. Can't see us making the playoffs. Bolton and Charlton are flying, and our injuries and home form killed us this season. There is a juxtaposition between kind of Kevin's positivity, Duff kind of saying realism, look, we're still in the playoffs, and the fans' usual Yorkshire Dowerism, saying it's all doom and gloom and we're not going to make the playoffs. Kaine, where do you sit?
Yeah, it is a hard one because top two should have been the aim at the beginning of the season before the season started. Top two should have been the aim in January when you're bringing more players in. But unfortunately, there's been issues such as performances, formation, injuries, letting key players go or a key player go. Injuries have been massive. They've not been great, but promotion is the key. I think whether you go first, second, or through the playoffs, that's what Mr. Nagel wants. It has to be one of the three. Top two ain't going to happen. You've got to set yourselves on the playoffs now. It's about Michael trying to manage everybody over the last few games, manage injuries, pick up results, because we're not really going to see much performance, are we, for the rest of the year. He's going to go out there to try and win games because he has to. That's his job's on the line.
There's 11 left.
Yeah, let's face it. His job is on the line right now, regardless of injuries. I think the board, I think the chairman are smart enough to also appreciate that fans do want a performance as well as a result. And okay, they got it. They got half of a performance last night, but they've not had it for the majority of the season. That will be taken into consideration, and it has to be taken into consideration. Do people want to watch that dribble for another full year? No, we don't. We said this last podcast that we did that Callum probably wouldn't buy a season ticket if it was the same kind of stuff next year. Would it be different if all the players are fit? I don't know, because again, like I just said a few moments ago, you cannot rely on a certain 11 that you want to have every week to be the ones that perform. Everyone has to do it. It's a squad game. I've not seen a squad performance all year. Again, he's got till the end of the year and he's got the playoffs. And I think if Town don't go up, I think that could be the last of Michael Duff. And I know I keep changing me. I don't keep changing my mind. Town aren't going to go up, and I don't think Michael Duff's the right manager. I don't think the formation's the right manager. But again, they're just so hot and cold. One week they'll be terrible. One week they'll be okay. One week they'll be brilliant, and then they'll go terrible again. Yeah, it is just so. It's about as inconsistent as the referee last night. You don't know what you're going to get. But there's a massive 11 games now for Town. Massive 11 games. Whether they'll do it, I don't think so. Would I love them to do it? Yeah, of course I would. I just can't see it happening. It's not a winning formula.
Do you think, obviously, the sides around us now, Bolton, Charlton, as Terrier 930 says, they are on really good runs, and I genuinely think there is a big possibility that we miss out on the playoffs, because I think you need to, in the last quarter, you always get a surprise team that sort of always shoots up in the last sort of 10 games as well, whether it's a Leyton Orient coming back on track or whatever. I think we are in danger of missing out on the playoffs altogether. I'll be honest.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Bolton have got a game in hand on Town and they're 1 point behind.
Yeah.
As you say, Reading are up there. They're currently drawing at the moment. Leyton Orient, okay, lost the last 4 games, but they're on a great run. They've been on a fantastic run. They'll pick up that form again. Barnsley are 10th, and they're still in and around it, or could be. Pick up a couple of results. It's not going to be easy, and anyone can beat anyone. We've seen that. Even Birmingham lost yesterday. We're not expecting Birmingham to lose, but they did. And look who they lost to. Bolton, who were just behind Town. There's a lot of work to do for everybody involved, and I do worry. I do worry for Town.
Get your quick thoughts on the off the field news that happened this week, that the club has changed kit supplier for the first time since 2018. We've moved away now from Umbro and gone to Castor. You may remember, or some people may remember, that they did the interesting Aston Villa shirt. I think it was either not last year, but maybe the year before, where whenever it rained, the kit would just genuinely stick to the player's skin, and you could see every ripple on the player's body. Put it that way.
I can't wait to see me and you in one.
Well, to be fair, you are a bit of a slimmer gentleman than me, so it'll wear a little bit better on you. But good, bad, your thoughts on it? There's been a lot of criticism, but then there's a lot of people saying it's nice to have a change. I don't know.
I do think it's nice to have a change, to be honest with you, Steve. I want an Adidas one because I think Adidas are great, or Nike. I think they're great. Obviously, they're standard ones that's just most people wear, isn't it? But Castore, they're an up-and-coming brand. They've had a good few deals. That I believe that kit that the Villa wore, they kind of asked for the kit in a certain material, and that's just what the material does. It's not very flattering. I can't imagine they'll make the same mistake down for a League One club or a potential Championship club. Can't really see that one happening. But I am looking forward to something different. We'll see. Hopefully, the training gear will be nice. They might bring some extra stuff out, which I do think that the club is trying to work hard on the merchandise side of it. I do think you get a lot of people going, I don't really want some Umbro. But if it was Nike or Adidas and it had Huddersfield Town on it, I'll be all over it kind of stuff. And I think Castore, they're a brand that's certainly up and coming. And again, Steve, just happy to have something different for once. And I'm hoping this kit next year is going to represent something from 100 years ago when Town won the 3rd title. I was hoping that last year was going to be 3 stripes, the middle one being gold, the outer 2 being blue. I was hoping that this year there'd be 3 stripes again, but the outer 2 being gold and the middle one blue. And then next year, 3 stripes and all 3 gold, because that'll go for each title. Do you know what I mean? I think But they've got a mission on their hands, because they've got to pay homage to that. It's 100 years since the first ever club won 3 the First Division, Premier League, however you want to call it, the top league in England 3 times in a row. And they better do something about it.
Yeah, it needs to definitely be, because it's the heritage of the football club, and without history, I don't think you have any basis to have a football club today. And I think we are one of the most historic clubs in England. You compare to somebody like Fulham, who all right, they've been in the Premier League and they are a really good football team now, but they haven't won a domestic trophy at all at any senior level. So compared to Fulham's, decorated trophy room, Huddersfield Town needs to be celebrated. But I agree, it'd be nice to have something different. Let's just hope that the logo at least lasts in the washing machine longer than what the Oppo one did a couple of years ago. Let's go back to our starter question then, before we get Kaine's thoughts on Bristol Rovers away at the weekend. Hoggy has played 400 games for us now, officially, and Kaine, does he get in Town's all-time midfield? Probably not in a 3-5-2 system, but if he does or he doesn't, who goes alongside him? And then I'll give my thoughts.
I don't know, it's a hard one. I'm a bit like Mark, mate. Just put Moy in there. I'd just have Moy on his own.
Just destroying everybody. I watched the Man United game the other day, by the way. It came, not the full thing, but like the 11 minutes highlights. And for the first goal, I just thought, when he pushes, I can't remember who he pushes Juan Mata over. And all right, Juan Mata's not like a 6'2" god, but he was a good player back then. And I just think, how nice would it be to have a midfielder that just dominates the midfield like Aaron Moy did?
Oh, mate,
just dreaming, isn't it?
Unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable, that guy. I think in the formation that Michael Duff plays, you only have 2 midfielders. So I think Hogg and Moy would be the 2 starters for me.
Yeah. I mean, my preferred formation always is a David Wagner 4-2-3-1 style formation. I do like that, to be honest. I think you look back at Town's history, I think you've got to have you've got to have Worthington in there. I think Frank Worthington, I think he's got to be in there, to be honest. Dennis Law, does he count as a forward or does he count as a midfielder? I think arguable you could have him in. But there's other people like in the 1995 team, the great playoffs teams. I mean, even one of my favourites, and he always gets forgotten about, is Damian Johnson in 2011. I thought he was absolutely fantastic at 35-year-old Northern Ireland international. Playing for us dominating midfields in League One. I thought it was fantastic back then.
With Joey Goodjohn.
Yeah, with Joey Good and Kevin Kilbam. That never played for England. I don't think he did anyway. So yeah, I think Hoggy's got to be in there just for longevity to play 400 games in 12 years, mate. I mean, takes some going that, done it, to be honest. And he has been a model professional, whatever anybody says about him, and he does get some stick quite often, but he's a proper club legend in my eyes.
Oh yeah, he's a legend, mate. I remember when Town signed him, and it was a bit of a coup for Huddersfield. They've got this lad from Watford. Now they've come up to Championship. He wants to be a little bit closer to home because he's from Borough. And who'd have thought that 12 years later he'd still be at Huddersfield Town and be captain and be the general, the leader, and everything that he is. And I I, I think he's absolutely superb. I love him to pieces. I think just he's everything you want your player to be, your captain to be. Yeah, look, he's getting a little bit older and making a few mistakes here and there, but that's the level that Town are at. But when he's been through the thick and thin, he's been through the relegation battles. He got promoted to the Premier League, played in the Premier League for Huddersfield Town, captained Town in the Premier League, and held his own. Held his
Yeah.
own. I don't think he looked out of place. He's absolutely superb, up and down with a club, and he keeps himself quite. He's not very out in the public. He keeps himself to himself. When if fans want a picture and stuff, he'll do it, but you just feel as if he's a bit uncomfortable doing it. Like if
He
you
never
like his,
talks to press, bless him.
yeah,
I
he don't. He
I
doesn't.
never ever got an interview with him in the press, which
He don't, that's not him. That's not him, and I think that's what his actions are just what he does on the field and how he is with the team as a whole. And yeah, he's just amazing. He's absolutely fantastic. And yeah, I think I'm grateful I've been able to watch him for Huddersfield Town.
I always remember when they did that interview with him when they painted his picture on the side of somebody's house, which is still up, by
Yeah,
the way. And they did the interview with him, and you can just tell he doesn't really know what to say
yeah.
because it's like
I don't want to be there.
he's just like what is going on? It's quite funny actually. But I always remember the celebration after the Borough game where Warnock was back with us and we beat him 4-2. And obviously he's a Borough lad and he, grew up in Borough and got rejected by that at the club and ended up going and playing for, different teams, Watford included. So I think that whenever we play Borough and whenever we have managed to beat him, it's always meant a lot to him. But I've just done some quick maths, by the way. 400 grand we bought him for. 12 years later, averagely works out at 33 grand per season. Not bad going, for a footballer these days, I don't think.
Yeah, or a grand an appearance.
A grand an appearance, yeah.
Yeah.
Not bad, that is it?
Oh, worth his weight in gold, mate. Worth his weight in gold.
Right, well, we'll finish the podcast by just touching on the Bristol Rovers away game. Obviously, it's a fixture that Hoggy might be in at the weekend, depending on how Michael Duff sets up his team. Thoughts going into the fixture, Kaine? It's kind of, in my mind, it's a potential Northampton slip-up game, if I'm honest.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, look, Bristol Rovers just on the edge of the relegation zone by 3 points. They need as many victories as they can to keep themselves up in the league. Drew to Shrewsbury 0-0 at the weekend, which I guess is kind of good for Town. Huddersfield's performance was a little bit better last night, but it's about doing it on the road, and they seem to play with a bit more freedom on the road, which is good. But it's just, again, it's the final third. It's if they can do anything in that end zone, which it just every time I watch becomes increasingly unlikely. The amount of injuries, is there going to be a fit centre half this weekend, or is it going to be makeshift again? Have they caught Karoma's calf early, or is that him out for 2 weeks or for the rest of the season? Is Dion Charles got the confidence to start? Is it Ladapo that might have to start over him? How fit is Joe Taylor? Can Callum Marshall play again? Because he worked his socks off yet again. There's a lot of factors, but it's a game that Huddersfield Town need to go and win. But I do think it's going to be quite tough.
100%. Score prediction and scorers?
Struggling with this at the moment. One apiece, and goal scorer will be Joe Taylor.
Nice. Right. Well, I'm going to go for a optimistic 0-0. No, I'm not. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Town, because hopefully we can beat Bristol Rovers and we won't put a Northampton game in. But for now, thank you everybody for getting involved. We'll let Kaine get off to bed because he's looking tired, and get some well-earned rest before the weekend. You never know. By the time we come back for another podcast, Town might have scored a goal in 2025 at the John Smith Stadium. Or maybe not. We'll see. Well, you never know. We'll put a bet on it. Anyway, I've been your host, Stephen Downs. As ever, my right-hand man and superstar Kaine Hall has been with me. Enjoy the rest of the week, and let's hope for 3 points at the Pirates. See you later, everybody.